And we are up and running, and it is Labor Day weekend. The labor forces of America who banded together and demanded fair wages and better working conditions. So as we celebrate another manifestation of man's striving to transcend the darkness of this world, we can kick back and have 4 days of fun and celebration and wind up the event of summer. How are you this morning, Barret?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm really glad to connect with you and enjoying the slight cool down we've had the last couple days. I think they said it's heading back up a little warmer again today, but I really kind of like fall. It's one of my favorite times of year, and the leaves start changing colors, and just that bit of briskness in the air. It's always been a very refreshing time for me.
Well, and you get to play with pumpkins, and apples are becoming very abundant all around the region, and so it really is a celebrative time. It's very showy with the transition of colors, and it's a good time to get out and just explore. Just go for a day trip anywhere in any direction. Just get in your car and drive mindlessly until you come across an apple stand or a pumpkin patch, and get out there and celebrate life itself.
That's right. Maybe you'll even see the great pumpkin.
I am the great pumpkin. With A Course in Miracles, everything that is, I am. So, yes, me and Snoopy have been hanging out around his doghouse this time of year for decades.
Well, that all makes sense now. I've been trying to place you for the last several years, and now it's all coming together.
Yes, I am that mythological creature. And that's the secret. We have created our own mythology about our identity, which is really pretty insane when you stop and actually think about it. And that kind of segues into part of what we're talking about today, which is lesson 222. God is with me. I live and move in him. So we imagine ourselves as the great pumpkin, or the great proclaimer of our identity. But the truth is, this is all a fantasy that we cooked up just to experience the illusion of separation. And there are good things in the illusion, but there are also hideous things in the illusion. So, and that leads into this time of year with Halloween and all the scary stuff that shows up in life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember hearing Ken Wapnick talk about this, and one of the key concepts in the Course is that the mind is so powerful that it made up this whole world of space and time. And it made up this world of space and time for a reason, right? It gave us a place to hide out in, to pretend that we are not the oneness, that we are only some tiny fragment of it, and that we are subject to the laws of fear and the seeming law of death, destruction, suffering, all of these things. So, but what he said was, when we consider that the mind is all powerful, we could have made this world any way that we wanted. Why would we make it like this? Why would we make it so that our bodies felt pain and suffered? Why would we make it so that they break down and die? Why would we set it up this way? And it really is illuminating when we consider that, because it shows us again that reason. The reason that we're here and having this experience is because we wanted to run away from the oneness. We wanted to run away from love, from peace, from joy, and hide out. And when we really get that, all of a sudden we start to see what's going on here, and it leads us to this idea, that God is with me. We're not apart from the oneness. We've never been apart from the oneness. Even while we're experiencing this world, we can reawaken to that deeper truth within, and that's where we're all going.
Absolutely. And we are moving forward, it seems, at an accelerated pace now. You know, I go back to my childhood back in the 1950s and look at the world that surrounded me. And it was definitely a, you know, beaver cleaver and father knows best kind of existence for the white population, at least, of America. And you know, we had dumbed ourselves down to the point where we didn't even realize how much guilt we were trying to bury by uh, creating a world of fantasy, apple pie, and happy-go-lucky experiences. But the truth is, when you looked underneath the backdrop on that, when you lifted the curtain and looked behind the scenes, the guilt and the darkness and the horrors of multiple world wars and, you know, all kinds of dark elements were there, like cockroaches in the background. And we were very much committed to overlooking that and embracing, you know, this delusional idea that everything is perfect. So now, as we're moving into the era of global communication and reunification, we are beginning to realize that you can't bury the darkness. You have to confront the darkness and recognize that those dark images and those shadowy regions, once light is cast upon them, they evaporate, they just disappear. And that's the wonderful thing about the Course, is it allows us support as we're going through this journey.
Yeah, and it really fits in with the idea that what we're doing as we do this work is we're bringing these shadows to the light. One of the things that often we want to do is we want to bring the light into the shadows, right? So a different way to say that is we want to bring the issues and problems we feel in this world to spirit, rather than trying to bring spirit into this world. Ultimately, our work is in waking up from this experience, this dream world, to the truth that we are. And this takes patience, it takes persistence, it takes practice, all these P words. But when we stick with it, then we actually get the result that we're looking for, which is that experience of peace, right? Another P word. So that's where we're going.
Yes, and it's important that we be pernicious in our pursuit of these things. So,
sounds very prudent of you.
yes, I think we're unraveling the P for eternity. Going back to the lesson 222, it says, God is with me. He is my source of life, the life within, the air I breathe, the food by which I am sustained, the water which renews and cleanses me. He is my home, wherein I live and move, the spirit which directs my actions, offers me its thoughts, and guarantees my safety from all pain. He covers me with kindness and with care, and holds in love the sun he shines upon, who also shines on him. How still is he who knows the truth of what he speaks today? And there's there's the clincher right there, that last sentence. How still is he who knows the truth? When we stop all the brain chatter, when we slow the mind down to the point where it's disengaged, then we have that spark, that ignition that is referred to as the holy instant. And within that, it clears the memory banks. It resets our little mind trip and resolves the conflicts, resolves the illnesses, resolves the the hurt and the pain and the miscommunication. So we have the formula, and obviously then the next step is for us to take action and really put our attention on that idea of creating that vacuum Once we've created that vacuum, then God is unstoppable. And all of a sudden that vacuum is filled with perfection. And we recognize, oh, I am this perfection that I just experienced.
Yeah, yeah, all of the imperfections melt away in that light of truth. And that's why we just keep going, right? One of the things that comes up a lot as people are doing this work is the question, why wouldn't I want to forgive? Why am I resistant to doing this work? And kind of like you were just saying, talking about it as a formula. And forgiveness is the formula. And the input to the formula is basically any upset you have. And the answer is always some release into freedom. So the only reason we wouldn't want to put the input, the upset into the formula of forgiveness is because we don't actually want the answer, right? And this always kind of seems a little strange when it's said, that there's a part of us that actually doesn't want to experience joy. There's part of us that doesn't want to experience happiness. And what is this part? This is our ego part, right? Our ego is resistant to all of this joy, to all of this experience of truth. And the way to work with it is to really gently and very patiently, in stillness, look it straight in the eye and come to see that there's actually no real something there, right? All the substance that it seemed to have is actually just empty. The seeming solidity of the ego's castle is actually just a house of cards that will easily fall down when one of the cards at the bottom is pulled out. And that's basically what we're coming to see is everything seems so scary sometimes as we approach it. But as we move through it, eventually we come to the other side, and from the other side we see the real nothingness of everything that frightened us. And that's the experience that we have as we do this work as well.
It's absolutely true. And what I've observed as I continue to, invest a lot of time and effort in my pursuit of these ideas that are revealed in the Course, is that you hit different plateaus as you're moving forward with not only comprehending but internalizing these ideas. And you finally get to a place where you're in that in-between zone. You've got one foot in each world. And of course, that's not something that can be sustained. You're either 100% in or 100% out of the ego's world or God's world. So as you are starting to make that transitional step, you will, without doubt, experience periods of disorientation, periods of confusion, periods of confrontation, where the ego will present its arguments to you, and you have to just stand strong and say, no, this is a vapor. This is an illusion that is merely passing through in front of my line of sight. And I can't believe what I see. I can't believe what I smell or taste or touch, because those are the tools that the ego uses. So you have to settle down into a much deeper realm of consciousness. And that takes a lot of trust. Once you arrive at that point where you realize what's going on, then it starts to ease up for you. And that's when you're on that journey that I believe the Apostle John was talking about, where he gives us that image of being perfected in love. So when you are in the ego, you are in fear and hate. But as you make that step into truth, into your God presence, your God being, you are being perfected in love. And that is a very tumultuous experience for a lot of us, simply because the ego goes into a frenzy when it is confronted with love. Because the one thing the ego cannot endure is love itself. So, be aware of the conditions and the extremes that the ego is going to assail you with. And within that, put all of your attention on love and on truth. And you'll get through those rough waters, those raging currents pretty comfortably. You know, it won't be as hideous as the ego is proclaiming it to be. So that, I think, is one of the most important parts of the journey that we're all engaged in. And as we start to come out of that canyon where there's all that turbulence, where there's that white water and the big boulders and the bumps and the grinds, as we emerge from that, then we come out on this beautiful placid region where life takes on new meaning and new direction.
It's really cool that you use that symbol of the canyon, because I was just thinking that too. There's a beautiful metaphor that it was a vision that Helen had as she was heading into the scribing of the course, where she was on a boat, and Jesus was there on the boat with her. And as she was navigating the water, all of a sudden they were heading to this canyon with the white choppy waters, and it was very narrow, and there were clouds on the horizon, so all the stuff. And Jesus said to her, "Well, here, why don't let me take the wheel for a while. Let me navigate us through this passage." And he did very successfully, and they merged back out into the calm water, and it was just this beautiful metaphor that I think really hits home for me when I feel like I'm going into some rough waters. I'm like, oh, okay, am I holding onto the wheel here, or am I letting Jesus take over and take care of it? Like I can rest safe and solid knowing that Barret's not in charge, because we all know what happens when Barret tries to be in charge. It doesn't always go so well. The other thing I wanted to share was kind of what you were talking about there. It reminds me of the introduction of the course, and there's that great line. It says, "The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite." Right. So he's helping us to see that we're actually healing something that's not actually the truth, but it seems true to us. And as we see it, as we hold space for it, as we witness it more and more, we come to see there's really nothing there. There never has been anything there, and that's really a relief, really a blessing for us.
And that is one of the great challenges, because again, the ego has so completely deluded us that all of these hideous things that appear to be in front of us are actually real. And as we start to release our resistance to experiencing these things, we suddenly discover that which we feared greatly will begin to dissolve. And that's one of the things that I really love about the way the Course works. If you commit yourself to experiencing the lessons, not just reading the lessons, but experiencing them, all of a sudden you'll discover that things that were challenging and things that you thought had power over you, in fact, have absolutely no power whatsoever. So ultimately, it's not about living in the material world without any problems. Ultimately, it's about transitioning your identity to the world of spirit, so that this material world becomes more and more of a dream, and you are consciously aware of the fact that it is a dream. So when you're doing the lessons, you can't just read them and think about them. You have to actually act on them, but in a process within the mind, not going out and buying sage and smudging your house and all these other things that are simply symbols of solutions that the mortal mind has created. You know, the real solution is recognizing the presence of God in every circumstance in your life. That's how you overcome the problem. You don't buy crystals and worry about all of these applications that the ego is offering you. It's a journey that really demands a lot of investment, but the investment gives you a reward that's not even describable, simply because it is so complete and so complex and so profound.
Yeah, yeah. And all of what we're sharing and talking about here reminded me of a poem that I wrote. So I thought I'd share it. It's from my book of poetry, Poems for Jay. You can find this on Amazon. And actually also at my new website, which is all about A Course in Miracles too. It's called miraclesu.org. So that's the word miracles, the letter u.org. And yeah. There's some other teachings about A Course in Miracles, some online classes that I put together. And my books too. So here we go. There is a place I cannot go, although I don't know why it's so. It is a place of fear and sin. There's only loss, there is no win. As it nears, I scream in terror. Why have you brought me to this lair? But I'm the one who wants this peace, and for all striving thoughts to cease. And so you point me straight inside, and bid me to no feeling hide. For what I'll find is scary, true, but only from one point of view. When I can see it with your eyes, will fear's false height come down to size. And on the other side it's true, is everything I'd ever knew. Not separate, shattered, torn, or tossed, but safe in heaven, never lost. So when we're holding the ego's hand, these things all look so threatening and real. And when we finally let go, and in so doing, we're automatically holding Spirit's hand when we let go of the ego's. All of a sudden we see that there really wasn't anything to it. And the real substance of the ego turns out to, again, be substanceless. There's just nothing there. And we can see that when we get that the core of the ego is the idea that we are separate from God. It's not true. It's never been true. So when we look at that foundation of the ego thought system and see there's no foundation, well, without a foundation, there can't be anything that rests upon it. And so everything that was built upon that is also untrue. It's like a castle in the sky, right? It never really happened. It was just all a big fantasy. And it's really a relief when we get that, even if it's quite a process, as you're saying, to really experience this, to move from intellectually thinking about this to actually living it in our lives. It's a process and a practice. So we're just doing it. All those P words again.
Yes, well, the circle is complete now. At any rate, one of the things that occurred to me as you were speaking there is that initially, when we first start out on the journey, we still believe that all of the random incidents from the past happened in a random fashion. But as we grow into a deeper understanding and a deeper level of communion with the Holy Spirit and with the presence of the Christ within us, all of a sudden we can begin to connect the dots and realize, oh, this event that happened in 1954 actually was a necessary component that would have caused me to arrive in 2018 at this place that I am in my life.
Wow.
And then you can begin to recognize the truth, which is that in the midst of this madness, in the midst of all this confusion and delusion and frustration and fear and anger, everything is being very carefully orchestrated. It is a chessboard, and the Holy Spirit and Jesus is the person who is directing the movement of the players. So no matter how much you believe that you had all these random events in your life that conditioned your life, the truth is that to the degree that you are willing to accept the truth, your life is being orchestrated and you are being moved through each stage of purification. And we're told that in order to be able to be a miracle worker, in order to be able to receive the atonement, we have to go through a process of purification. The truth is, your entire life has been that process. You just didn't realize it in the moment.
So well said. It's poetry, really. When we start to listen to these messages, there's a beauty that really hums in them, and in a way, it's not even the words of the Course that we're actually attracted to when we're drawn to this practice. It's the beauty that underlies them. It's that beauty that we recognize in some way as the deeper, truer part of what we are. And it calls to us, and it asks us to open up to it and have that experience. So it is pretty remarkable when we look at the whole thing. We see, as Jesus says, that all things are gently planned for my own good. It might seem hard to swallow initially, but as we start to really accept that, it really means that everything that happens in our life we can use for the purpose of awakening. And that's pretty good news to me.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these hideous experiences is not something that Jesus created or the Holy Spirit created. That was the process of your mind trying to punish you. So you created that violent, encounter in life. But the Holy Spirit and Christ takes those experiences and carries you across those chasms, so that once you're on the other side, you begin to realize, oh my God, look at the blessings that I have experienced in this lifetime. And I can especially go back to a couple of incidents back in the 1980s where in experiences I had driving on the road, if I had not had that whack upside the head from Jesus saying, put your eyes on the road, I would have undoubtedly been dead, because I would have had car wrecks that were indescribable. So the voice is always there, and your willingness to listen to the voice is what determines how fast you rise up out of this numbness that you've spent your whole life embracing and believing in and wanting.
Yeah. Part of the process is admitting that we're kind of all numbskulls, and we can join Numbskull Anonymous. Say, hi, my name is Barret. I've been a bit of a numbskull.
Well, or a pumpkin head.
Well, if you're the great pumpkin, then I'll be the slightly lesser pumpkin. So.
Okay, but we can still be rotund and plump and filled with all that pumpkin goodness.
That's right. You can make us into some tasty pies.
And that's very autumnal.
That's right.
Well, you were in Colorado and had a wonderful experience, and now we're moving toward the triumvirate plus additional participants in that October event that's coming up. You want to mention that?
Yeah, October 7th, we're doing our next Exploring the Course. This is going to actually be 6 course teachers. The 2 of us, plus Charlie, who's often our sidekick on these videos. Tom Kinley, who's been a longtime course teacher for, I think, 25, 30 years in Chicago. And then Susan Weishart and Dave Burr, who are a couple who lead a group in Barrington. Both excellent Course in Miracles students and teachers as well. So the 6 of us are going to do a whole afternoon on Sunday, October 7th from 1 to 5 p.m. We are making this one available through live streaming for the first time. So if you are not going to be in the Chicago area and can't join us in Glenview, then you can sign up for it by reaching out to me. All the information on this is available on my website, which is barrethadeen.com. Or you can actually see it also at miraclesu.org, which is the new site that oh, there, an angel just got their wings. The new site that I've just launched for A Course in Miracles. You can check that out too. So yeah, it'll be great. It'd be great to have you join us either virtually or in person if you're in the area.
Well, and you know, the important thing is, that's weird.
Yeah, your video is popping in and out.
Yeah. Well, as I was going to say, the important thing is to realize that if you actually join us at the group, I generally bring cookies. So you can get a cookie as well as a huge amount of downloaded information and practical application regarding A Course in Miracles. So cookies and the Course, how cool is that?
Cowabunga.
That's the way it works in this material world. Well, Barret, it was a wonderful discussion with you this morning.
It was, yeah. I always enjoy these talks, and I know Charlie's been kind of moving through some big projects in his life. He hasn't been able to join us lately, but I think that's shifting. So probably in the next couple of weeks, he'll be back on board, and we'll get our triumvirate again together.
Yes, and like the Roman Empire, we will bring peace and joy to the land.
That worked out so well. I'm glad we're doing it again.
Yeah, it will be great. Well, thank you again for a beautiful morning experience, and I'll talk to you in 6 days instead of 7.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, actually, I'm going to be out of town next week, so we'll have to talk about that and pick another day.
Okay. Well, we can always do that.
Okay. Sounds good. But this has been beautiful, and look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Yes. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.